Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I think we'll get started. First off, I want to say thank you to everyone for attending. I know there's a lot happening right now in the world. We appreciate you hopefully viewing this as an escape for an hour. I think I know everyone that's on the call, but as a means of introduction, I am Matt Huefner with Dopkins System Consultants, division of Dopkins and Company. So just wanted to welcome you all to the webinar. I'm just going to do a brief introduction on our session today, and then I'm going to pass it over to Linda Pinion from Sage, who is the Principal Solution Consultant for Sage Intacct. If you have any questions during the session, we're going to ask you to type them in the question box in the GoToWebinar session. Time permitting, we'll try to address all these questions at the end of the session. And if we don't have a chance to do that within the hour today, we'll be sure to follow up with you directly on those. So the agenda for today, basically what we want to cover is who and what is Sage Intacct. We're going to talk a little bit about what's contained within Intacct's cloud financial management solution and the technology behind it that makes it such an effective solution. Linda's going to do a bit of a demo showing access to information and how that works across multiple entities. And then we'll talk about next steps and, like I said, some Q&A if we have time. So as I mentioned before, we're Dopkins and Company. We are a CPA firm in Buffalo, New York, a team of certified public accountants and consultants. In our division, the system consulting practice, we are a certified partner for both Sage Intacct as well as Sage 300. Some of you that have been using it for a long time may still know that as Accpac. We're also a certified partner for Sage CRM. And we've spent 30 plus years in the business working with Sage customers. And our main goal throughout that time, and that has not changed over the years, is helping you solve your business problems. And so I think that's a good segue into what's driving this change. Everyone on this call is a current customer of Sage 300. So we just want to make clear that nothing is changing with respect to our support for Sage 300. We know that many of you have Sage 300 on-premise systems that have been deeply customized over the years and very integrated and woven into the fabric of what you do on a daily basis in your business. And, you know, we just want to make clear up front, if that system still works for you, if, you know, what we have to say today doesn't interest you at this time, we're certainly committed to supporting you on Sage 300 long-term the way that we have for 30 plus years. So that begs the question, why now? Why are we taking on support of another product now when we've historically resisted doing that for 30 years? I attended a Sage Partner Conference a few weeks back, and one of the overriding themes of that conference was that you know, we're no longer talking about the cloud in terms of emerging technology. It's no longer thought of as a risk, as something that's happening down the road. The cloud is here. Think about how often you do things through the cloud on a day-to-day basis, both in your business and personal life. You know, and we were starting to see that in our conversations with our clients as well. We had a handful of clients that have started to approach us about options for moving their financial accounting software to the cloud. They were saying things like, well, all of our other applications are in the cloud. Is there any way we could move Sage 300 to the cloud as well? IT is saying we don't want to maintain all of these servers in-house anymore. Obviously, a big one coming up recently is we want the flexibility to be able to work remotely from anywhere. And perhaps most importantly is leadership really wants the ability to view things like dashboards and KPIs and reports from wherever they are and not have to be constrained to being on premise or having a remote connection to my computer in the office to do that. So that's kind of what's driving this to happen now. So that begs the question then, why Intacct? So back 30 years ago when we selected Accpac at the time, now Sage 300 as a system, one of the attractive things for us was that it was formulated as a best-in-class software. So it was not sold as a suite of products per se. They did one thing really well, and that was the financial accounting system. And then there was a very robust marketplace of add-ins, third-party products, integrations to other softwares, whether it be billing, payroll, banking, whatever the case may be. And those integrations happen, but they're not truly real time. So Intacct provides some of that capability, and again, without stepping on too much of what Linda's going to say, she'll go through that in more detail. Intacct was born in the cloud, so it's been a native cloud system for around 20 years now. And I think most importantly, Intacct's vertical markets, where it fits really well, happens to align with the industries that a lot of you are in. So not-for-profit, healthcare, franchisees, light manufacturing and distribution. I think just about everyone on this call is in one of those main industries. So again, Linda's going to go through this in more detail. One final thing I want to touch on here is Intacct being a cloud software is a true subscription product. So that, again, should not be a foreign concept to anyone. We all have subscriptions in our daily life. A lot of you that have run Sage 300 as an on-premise solution for a long time would have purchased the software up front and then paid a percentage, usually 21%, in annual maintenance, which entitled you to upgrades to the software. What that meant is theoretically you could cancel that maintenance at any time, not pay anything for several years, as some of you have, and then when you decided you needed to upgrade because your infrastructure was changing or Windows came out with an update, you could essentially buy back in and get current on the software. Intacct is a true subscription product. In fact, a lot of you have already had your Sage 300 plans move over to a subscription model where you're paying an annual recurring subscription fee to use the software. So that shouldn't be real news to anyone. But I will say, although they're both Sage products, Sage 300 and Sage Intacct are not related per se. Again, Sage, operates both products, but they're not. There's not an upgrade path, so it is a truly different system. And hopefully, you'll get out of that what Linda presents. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Linda Pinion. As I said, she's the principal solution consultant for Sage Intacct, and she can take it from here.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate that. A great intro. One of the best that I've heard. I always like to hear people give their overview because I always learn from that. So thank you for giving that information. As Matt mentioned, I am a principal solution consultant. A lot of words there. The net of that is I'm a product person. And what I do is work with our partners and our internal teams to make sure that our partners have the right information, that we are able to deliver the solutions that their customers need. And so today my role is really to introduce you further to Sage Intacct and also to show you a little bit about the product and what it looks like. Everyone always wants to know, what does the baby look like? So we're going to get to see the baby today. So as Matt mentioned, we are a born-in-the-cloud financial management system. We are a model that he referred to as best-in-class. And best-in-class means that we have a core competency, and that is financial management. That's what we do every day, every week. It is our specialty. And it also means that we have been architected so that we can integrate with other best-in-class solutions. at the end of the day, what we want for you, our customers, is to make sure that you have the best solution for every area of your business or organization. And to do that means that we all stay in our lane and focus on what we do best. And for us, that is financials. We are a scalable solution. You'll see that today. I'm going to use an environment that's managing multiple entities. We refer to companies as entities, and I use that word interchangeably. But that means that you can start out as a single entity and grow to unlimited entities. So it's important to know that wherever you are today, you can start out domestically and move to a global solution. You can start out with one entity and move to multiple entities. As Matt mentioned, we have a great marketplace, much the same as he described for Accpac. We have a great marketplace of other best-in-class applications with integrations. And what we also offer, which is important to note, is something called a buy with confidence document. And I kind of look at this as a insurance policy, if you will, which means that when we have updates, and we have them 4 times a year, so every quarter we have a new release, and all 16,000 of us that are utilizing Sage Intacct are using the same version of software. So we go away from all that version 8, version 8.1, version 8.2. We don't have that anymore. We're all on the same version. What this Buy with Confidence document says is, if you have those integrations, we're going to guarantee that they don't break when those releases come out. One of the key things that I want to make sure you take away today is why we're different. And one of those reasons is because we do what's called multi-dimensional reporting. You'll see that in my dashboards today and the reporting that I show you, but it's all based around what we call dimensions. And dimensions are a way for you to tag your transactions to one or more of the predefined 11 dimensions, or to utilize user-defined dimensions that you have created yourself. The end of that conversation is really, how can I get to my data, and how can I slice and dice that data? That's what multi-dimensional reporting does for us. We have automated business processes, so we're going to eliminate or greatly reduce the redundancy of you entering data multiple times. We're going to give you that real-time visibility. Again, you'll see that in the dashboarding. We have something that we refer to as the intelligent general ledger. So all of us know, as Matt mentioned, that cloud is not new, that we are moving very fast in this world. We're all learning and hearing more about artificial intelligence. We're hearing words like machine learning, things that are maybe a little bit foreign to us now, but they're going to become part of our everyday life. And really, artificial intelligence is alive and well, and it's happening. You may not know it as AI, but that's really what's happening. We're looking at patterns of the data to make sure that we can automate and alert you to things that are going on. Quick story, just last week, I got notified by my, finish up on those last bullets, the fact that we do have what we call an intelligent general ledger, meaning that, you know, we are looking at providing you automation so that we're tracking anything that's unusual, that we are making that close a continuous close, so that at some point in our life, we won't really go through these end-of-month closes, because we'll be closing all the time as we are entering and transacting in Sage Intacct. If you look at the right side, I won't go through this, but you'll certainly have access to these slides after the presentation today. This kind of gives you a little bit of the footprint of what's in Sage Intacct, our core financials, some of the things that are additional modules, and then some of the industry-specific solutions. One thing that you should know is that we are very proud of some of the accolades that we've received. One in particular on this slide that I will speak to is our preferred provider endorsement from the AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, which we have had this preferred provider recommendation from them since before I joined Intacct, and I've been here almost 10 years. So I would say it's probably been in play for about 12 years now, and we're the only cloud-based financial solution that has that recommendation. The other two there, you may follow some of the industry analysts. We work closely with several of them. Gartner has named us as a visionary. And then in the center of the G2 crowd. And I speak to this one because G2 Crowd is an organization that allows you, the user of the software, to go in and log your recommendation on how you rate the software. So it's not the analyst, it's people using the software. And we have had several awards from G2 Crowd. As we talked about, we work in different verticals. We have both domestic and global customers. We have customers across these different verticals. Not-for-profit is a great vertical for us, one that has really taken off. Healthcare, at the moment, I'm putting together some newer assets, some newer recordings around healthcare. Important to note that we are HIPAA compliant, and many of the solutions out there are not. General business services, we're going to be looking at an environment today that is considered a general business environment with a little bit of a distribution flavor. So you'll get to see a lot of what we have in the general business area. We also, because of our model, our best-in-class model, we integrate with over 250. We are continually adding people to this list, if you will, of integrations. We don't integrate with everybody. We are a little bit picky. In fact, we're a lot picky because we have standards. There is a validation and certification process that our partners need to go through. So these are some of the folks that we integrate with by type of application. So if you're looking for something, we do have a marketplace on our website that you can go in and look at these different integrations. And then this is a little bit more of that expanded footprint. And again, I won't go through each one of these boxes, but if you start at the bottom and kind of work up with me, you know, part of what we want to provide is that strong infrastructure. And when you move to that cloud-based solution, of course, a lot of that infrastructure is on us, the vendor. So us as the vendor, we're going to take care of the hardware and the software and making sure that this software is performing and the uptime is there, the reliability, security, and more importantly, the scalability so that you can continue to use this solution for many years. And then as you go up to the foundation, of course, everybody wants to have access via reports and dashboards and business intelligence and all of the things that you want from a foundational component level. And then you can move into core accounting and then up to some of those business processes. Depending on what is important to you and what you need, what your requirements are, would identify which ones of those modules outside of our core bundle that you would be interested in looking at. And then again, across the top, some of our key verticals, whether it be software, wholesale distribution, healthcare. There's a lot of them that we work in. These are some of the primaries that you see here. As a wrap up to this section, there's really three key takeaways today. One is we want to make sure that you know that we have the visibility for you to see real-time up-to-date information via reporting, and that's dimensional reporting and our dashboards. We also want to highlight that we have automated business processes. So when we come in to talk to you about a business process flow and go through that discovery of understanding how you do that today, it's all around a process flow. It's not pointed at one individual application. It's around that flow of business and understanding how you do it today so that we can make that better for you so we can relieve those bottlenecks so that we can get the efficiencies to your team. So automation is a key tenet here as well. And then last, of course, is the integration. And integration in years past has always been a little bit tense for people because integrations in the past didn't work. Or they worked until you had an upgrade and then they broke and you needed to fix them. And so I want you to walk away today knowing that integration is not the same as it was a few years ago, that integration means that now you can have that best-in-class model. And we believe that Sage Intacct is the only solution to do it all. So now let's take a few minutes and talk about the technology, because technology obviously is different here than what you're maybe used to working with on a business level. Although most of us do online banking, so we're already utilizing cloud technology. But what's really important around understanding this is not just the feature function of the software. It's about understanding what the difference is between using a solution that's on-premise versus using a cloud-based solution. And I refer to this as the iceberg slide. You may have seen it over the course of the last few years. You may be totally familiar with it. It's really about what you see above the water. So if you look on the left-hand side in an on-premise solution, you don't see a whole lot above the water. And when you just look at that level, it looks like that, it's the cost is okay. But what really drives that cost up is what you don't see, which is what's under the water. And so you look at the things from an on-premise solution that are still needing to be done, some of that hardware, that updates, the backups, and all the things that we list down here of the ongoing costs, that all adds to the total cost of that on-premise solution. When you compare that to cloud computing, it's not to say that there's nothing below the line there, below the water, but most of what you see is above the water, and that's housed in the subscription fee. And as Matt said, that's what you're paying for, and we, as the vendor, are taking care of making sure that the data is secure, that the data is updated, that it is in a secure Tier 1 data center. You're not having to do anything around updates or upgrades. That's all being taken care of by us. What's below the line you would expect to see in an implementation or any customizations or training. Some of these things are one-time fees, a one-time implementation fee, unless you go back and add on another product. And then you would have an implementation fee for that. So really the ongoing cost is every month, every quarter, every year, you're going to have those subscription fees. So a real difference between on-premise and cloud when you look at the cost and how it moves that cost. What we know from what we read and what we see and what we hear from our customers, which is really the most important thing, is that cloud delivers 3.2 times more return on investment. So we know, we have the facts to back it up, that cloud versus on-prem, it continues to grow. The benefits continue to grow there. And that cloud is going to continue to provide benefits, both lower initial and ongoing costs, but also that payback, that initial investment that you're making. You're going to get payback and value from that sooner. And of course, in today, specifically today, what's happened, as Matt mentioned, I said before this started, before we got online today, I said I'm thankful that I work for a company where I can work remotely, where I can get to my data, where I can do my work. And so this kind of brings it all home that a lot of people are really thankful that they have access to their information because it is a cloud-based tool. So again, just a lot of the benefits here, making sure that the total cost of ownership, and it's important that you look at this, that the total cost of ownership is bringing you the value. Because here's what we all know. It's important that when you look at a new solution, whatever that solution is, that the value outweighs the switching cost. And I'll say that again. The value outweighs the switching cost. Because no matter what you're doing today, no matter what solution you're using today, there is a cost associated with switching from what you're using today to a new solution, whatever that new solution is. And it's important for you to make sure that there's more value in switching than staying. Because if there's not, 9 times out of 10, you're going to stay doing what you're doing. So we want you to be aware of not only the cost of ownership, but the value that's associated with making that switch from on-premise to a cloud-based solution. So now what I want to do is I'm going to pause for just a moment, and I'm going to say, again, what I'm going to show you is enough to get you interested so that you want to see more. This is not meant to be an end-to-end, soup-to-nuts presentation. But what I do want to share with you is what I call access to information, because every company and organization that I work with, one of the top things on their list is, I need better reporting. I need to be able to get to my data. I can't get a report out that I need. I don't trust the information that's on the report because it's coming from Excel. So these are all things that really, in my mind, all fall into this. I need to be able to get to my information. I need to know that it's accurate, that it's timely, and that I can get to it from wherever, whenever. So let's take a look at the solution. I have switched screens, so you should be looking at software. And before I just jump in here, let me present to you a little bit of the user experience, because one of the things that I know, having done this for a number of years, is that people are always a little cautious about moving to a new solution because they want to make sure that everyone's on board and everyone feels comfortable. And how do you make people feel comfortable? Part of it is that you slow down and you explain things so that they can understand what they're looking at. So what you're looking at here is a dashboard. Pretty obvious that it's a dashboard, except that there's a lot of things going on here. So for those of you who maybe have never seen Sage Intacct, I would tell you that I am logged in today as Emma, and Emma is the controller. So back behind that login with a secure password, and also with that login of Emma, I have been structured with certain permissions, and pretty much I'm a super user today. So I can go anywhere, do anything. I've also logged in as a second user, and I'll show you that person in a moment. Her name is Nikki, and she has some different permissioning being executed in the background in a different dashboard. But while we're still here on Emma, the other thing that I want to point out is that I am utilizing one instance of Sage Intacct. However, I am managing 3 entities or companies. So 100, 200, 300. Again, remember, unlimited. I can manage as many as I choose to. And I also have granted Emma permission to transact across all of those entities. Now, different, I have an employee named Nikki, and Nikki is also a user, a different type of user, and she has some very specific restrictions. One of those is immediate here. She can only transact in entity 100. So now, by permissioning Nikki, I'm directing where she can conduct business, and it's only in Entity 100. You'll also notice that when I flipped over to her, it brought up a different dashboard. So Nikki has a dashboard that has the things that are important to her in her role. And that's why we refer to these as role-based dashboards. So if we come back to Emma, a couple of other things about Emma being the controller. She has access to many dashboards. So the first thing you know now is you can create as many dashboards as you choose to. They can be permissioned, so they can have security around them. They also can be duplicated if you have that permission turned on, so you can copy dashboards from one to the other. We'll take a look at 2 or 3 of these different dashboards as we go along. Coming back to the dashboard, what I would also direct you to is how easy it is to navigate around. So if I use the drop down, pretty standard here, I can see all the different applications. If I go into a specific application, I have drop down menus here for task, activities, and reports. And then every application has access to what we call a process map or an overview map. And this is a pictorial. So if I'm new to the software and having a picture helps me understand the process of, in accounts payable, I'm going to enter a bill, and then I'm going to pay that bill, and before I can cut the check, I might need to go through some approval and then print the check. And then from there, I may want to execute some report, maybe a check register. So if these visuals help me, I can just click on an icon and it'll take me right to that place in the software. I also can come back over and create what's called favorites. So anytime you see a gold star is something that I have flagged as my favorite, and it allows me to create a little personal menu of just my favorites. So easy for you to move around, basically utilizing those different ways to navigate. So let's come back into our controller dashboard. And I would remind you that I am managing 3 companies here. So what you're looking at is a consolidated view. And I gave it to you just by logging into this dashboard. I don't have to run any reports. I don't have to do anything special because I am looking at a consolidated view. Now, as the controller, I may not want to look at all of my entities. Maybe I just want to look at one of them. And through my dashboard filters, I can apply those so that now I get a different view. And you'll notice that my numbers have changed. So this was a $50,000 number. It's now $28,000. And this is because I have filtered down to a specific entity. I also can filter by a date, by an as of date. So I can backdate this and I can look at how my business looked as of 11/30/2018. I also have other filters that I can apply here, and these filters are all tied to that word I call dimensions. So we'll learn a little bit more about dimensions in a moment, but for now, let's come back and get that consolidated view. So picking up the pace a little bit so that we get through the important features of what we want to see today. At the top of this dashboard, there are some boxes. These boxes are what we call performance cards, key performance indicators. And as the controller, I may want to know a little bit more about this $50,000. So drilling into it allows me to compare it to a previous period, a previous quarter, or in this case, I'm comparing it to a budget. Anything that's in blue allows me to hyperlink and see the detail of that transaction. So what I see here is that I've dropped myself right into the general ledger report. I can see that there's a bill here to AT&T that's come through my accounts payable system. This allows me to drill right down to the source AP invoice. So I'm now in accounts payable looking at this bill. And I can also see that this bill in its entirety was $207.86. However, because I have those 3 different entities, I've set up an allocation rule that controls the percentage of how this 207 gets split out. And I've done that here by applying that allocation rule. So I'm going to stop for a minute because this is an important point to make. If you are running multiple entities, you will have the ability to set up rules where you can do these splits based on a percentage, based on a flat fee. You'll also be able to do some additional things in that multi-entity environment. You'll be able to share the same chart of accounts. You'll be able to share customers and vendors. And this is going to be huge because it's going to save you lots of time and produce a lot of efficiency in tracking what's going on in your business. But more importantly, this is a great screen to talk to you for a minute about dimensions. So I said there were 11 predefined dimensions, and from location all the way over to warehouse, these are all dimensions. Not all 11, but a good chunk of them are here. So let's just say that you were a project-based company and you were buying materials for a specific project so that you could report on profitability by project. You might want to tag this transaction to a specific project code. If you are trying to track expenses by employee, you might want to tag this to an employee record. If you were a distribution company and you wanted to know what warehouse this was going to come into, or you're tracking expenses by warehouse, you might want to tag it to a warehouse dimension. So what happens here is we set up a modern chart of accounts, one that just requires the base or natural account. And then at transaction time, you'll notice that up here, I expense this to 603.40, which is my base account for office supplies. However, I also tagged it to a location and a department. So dimensions tell the rest of the story about transactions. At the end of this posting, what I end up with is dimensionalized data, which then gets me dimensionalized reporting. So dimensions are the key to you having the granular reporting that you need. And dimensions, again, there are 11 of them predefined. There are unlimited user-defined dimensions. So you can utilize dimensions across any transaction in Sage Intacct. So coming back to this dashboard, you see that we've got some visual indicators. So I could look at this very quickly and see things are going great. I can drill into any of these key performance indicators and look at the detail. I also, you might notice the do tos and do froms here. This is a relationship. We call it inter-entity transactions. We'll automate that for you. So if you're paying across those entities or paying on behalf of one of those entities, we can manage those transactions automatically for you. Now, I want to drill into a report here so that you can see how flexible and powerful the reports are. I'm going to take this report exactly as I have it defined. This is a profit and loss by entity. You can see each one of my entities in a separate column. You can also see that I've got some hyperlinks here, so I've broken out my revenue into my different categories. I can then drill in to that, so I can drill back just like you saw me drill before. I can look at specific sales transactions. If I wanted to look at this $65,000 invoice, I can see that this is an invoice that has had a partial payment against it, but I can also open this up so that I can see the history of this transaction. And we do this both on the sales side and on the purchasing side. So now you see all three steps in the process. You can see that this started out as a sales order. It went through a fulfillment step, a pick, pack, ship, and then it got invoiced to the customer. I can drill down into any of these steps and see the details of those steps. I can also drill in and see the payment. So now I have the payment information from the cash receipt that was entered. I know the check number and the bank and the date and all of that information. I can print or email this directly to my customer. I can answer those questions while the customer's on the phone and not be required to go dig in the filing cabinet. So this becomes my online filing cabinet. So these are the types of things, these drill downs and this access to your information is going to get you. Now, if I come back in to this same report and I say, I just want to see maybe one of those entities, not all of them, I can use this filtering screen. And this filtering screen is going to allow me, because of the way I have defined the report, to filter by department and by location. So at this point, I could filter just to that 100, and I now have the hierarchy of seeing that not only do I have entities, I also have locations underneath those entities. So Boston and New York are locations that roll up to the entity 100. You can have as many Bostons and New Yorks as you choose to. You can think of this kind of as parent-child. So have as many children as you want rolling up to that parent. And all of that drill down still happens the same way at the location level for Boston and New York as it does at the entity level. So seeing that information and then maybe being able to change it on the fly. So let's go in and make a quick change to this, and let's change the way this looks. And let's do that by utilizing those dimensions. So I'm going to change how this is filtering, and instead of seeing my sales by product category, I'm now going to see a report that shows me the individual items that I've sold. Item happens to be one of those dimensions. So now I've taken the data, and on the fly I've said, show it to me in a different way. And I've done it right in front of you very quickly, half a minute. We have a different view of the data. So when you think about how do you look at data today and how do you want to look at data, think about how you could empower yourself with this type of reporting, with these dimensions that we've looked at. A couple of other things before we get out of the dashboard here. Sage Intacct Collaborate. You might be wondering, what is this all about? This is a social media layer within Sage Intacct that allows you to communicate to other Intacct users about specific transactions. So as an example, this is a conversation between Emma and Nikki, and it's about a specific purchase requisition. So when these messages get sent between these users, there are hyperlinks to those transactions. So when I get the message from Nikki, or she gets a message from me, we also get the link to go right to the transaction in question. And then as I look at that transaction and scroll to the bottom, I can see there's a dialog box, which allows me to enter a conversation to a person or a group of people and share that. They will get notification, and then I like to keep those things on my dashboard because it keeps it up front and in my view, if you will. So right here on my dashboard, I have that collaboration feed along with the collaboration feed up here, which tells me everything that's come to me through the collaboration feed. So a great way for you to self-document using Sage Intacct Collaborate. You'll notice that I have different reports on this dashboard. All of these reports that you're looking at here have come from the Financial Report Writer. I also can have other activities. I can have approvals here. But for me, I wanted to make it a little bit easier. I put all of my workflow approvals on a separate dashboard. So everything that Emma needs to approve is right here on one dashboard. So think of your dashboards as containers. They're containers of information that you need to get to quickly. When we look at some of the other dashboards of department manager, so when we look at a department manager's dashboard, we will look at that and we'll say, okay, so maybe what I want to do is I want to look at what's important to them in their role. And maybe they are just managing a specific department. So in this case, marketing. So marketing and advertising, and we can look at key performance indicators. We can look at reports. We can look at graphs. So if you have graphs that represent how you're tracking, sometimes this is more important. A picture is more important than looking at a report. All of that drill down that you saw me do on a financial report, it's the same type of drill down here. Here we're comparing actual to budget and then showing that budget difference in a percentage and a dollar amount. And all of this is coming as part of the NATI core bundle of financial management. If we come back up to dashboards for just a moment, I just want to share one other dashboard with you. And this one is one that's called the Dimensional Insight Dashboard. And it's one that is all about revenue. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is the fact that we're not interested in just financial data. We want to look at data that perhaps comes operationally as well. And we want to take that data and look at it across all of those different dimensions that we have. So here what you see is revenue broken out by product category and then a gross margin percentage. If I looked at all of these performance cards, I'd say I'm doing really great. So here's everything in the green, everything's looking positive. If I look at this report, this is a revenue report that's structured by all of the different dimensions. So I've taken the data and split it across different channels, different product lines, different warehouses, different customer types, different customer reps, different locations, and different entities. What I've also done is I have set some rules up to say, if you're not meeting that 40% margin that is our target, then I want you to flag it in red. And so you see some red on my report here. And what this tells me is if I had stopped up here and never looked at the detail, never dug a little deeper, I wouldn't really have the right story. I'd think everything was perfect when in effect, I have some areas that I need to apply some attention to. So this is the type of reporting and access to your information that companies and organizations must get to be a data-driven type of organization. One that is going to get you the information that you need so that you can react to it and you have that information at your fingertips. I've done the same thing here with a revenue trend by active customers. So overall, maybe I think my customers are doing great. Individually, I've probably got some hot spots that I need to address. So this is the type of information, again, that you want to have on these dashboards. It's real time, that's up to date, that you can get to 24/7, that you can get to from anywhere as long as you have access to the internet and you have the proper permissions. And then again, another view of some graphs and pictorial information that may resonate with certain users better. So I wanted to share with you just a little bit about the user experience. I also wanted to share some of the dashboarding, the drill down, the reporting that you see so that you could get a glimpse of what Sage Intacct offers, and certainly want to make sure that you come back with some questions and some interest in looking a little bit further and maybe a little bit more specific at some of your needs. So let me switch back to our PowerPoint and let's talk a little bit about maybe a few questions that we have that have come through the chat. While that's coming through, I would circle back to Matt and say, there are some resources, there are some next steps that are going to happen after our event today. So Matt, you want to open it up for any questions that you might want to pose to me, and then also review your next steps.
Thanks, Linda. I really appreciate the presentation. So yeah, before we open it up and see if there's any questions, I just want to reiterate that we have a list of all the registrants for the webinar. So we'll be following up with each of you directly on this. Obviously, you know, the fact that you took the time to register for this would indicate that you have some level of interest. You know, certainly if, you know, we follow up with you and your answer is, you know, we take a look, we're not interested at this time, that's certainly okay, but we suspect that some of you may be interested in learning more. So we'll be reaching out to each of you directly. That link there is a link to our page, which has product tours, white papers, etc. For Intacct. You can also get to it from the main Dopkins.com site by going to the services menu and then selecting the cloud accounting option. And again, we'll be sending out a copy of this webinar to everyone. So if there are some in your organization who could not attend, they'll be able to have the link and view that as well. So I guess with that said, I'll pass it over to Bill and see if any questions came in.
We don't have any questions. No one has asked a question yet.
Okay. Well, if you think of something, I'm going to offer up that if you think of something, maybe you don't feel comfortable asking in an open forum, I know that the Dopkins team would love to hear back from you, love to hear your feedback on the webinar today. If there's anything that comes out of those questions that I need to be involved in, I'm happy to come back and focus specifically on what your questions are and your needs and so forth. So make sure that you are not shy, because we want to make sure that you get the answers that you need. On behalf of Sage Intacct and myself, thank you so much for investing some time with us today, and thank you, Dopkins team, for asking me to participate. It was my pleasure, and I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe St. Patrick's Day, and maybe goes out and eat some green eggs and ham, as Dr. Seuss would say.
All right, thank you, Linda. Thanks everyone for attending. As I mentioned, we'll be talking with you soon. Thank you.
All right, bye now.